Okay, so it's that time of year again where the weather says that there's still plenty of summer left, but the calendar is telling a different story. Lots of stressful things come about this time of year. Some of them are great things, but still stressful. And then we have all these extra stresses. You've got your normal work stuff. You've got fall plans. You've got kids going back to school. You've got school supply lists. Man, those have gotten expensive, haven't they? And then you've got meal plans. Are you buying your kid a lunch ticket, or are you making lunch? You may already have kids that are completely out of school, but you're juggling other things like work. Maybe you're shuttling grandkids to school soon, or there's always the COVID stuff, right? There's all of that ramping back up. Lots of reasons to be stressed. And that's what I want to talk about on today's encouraging word. So as I was thinking about this and all of the build-up of the fall and all of the exciting things and stressful things that are going on, I went to a story in my mind that is one of my favorites in the Gospels, and that is Jesus walking on water and Peter walking out to meet him. For some reason, stress, that image just always comes to mind. And I wanted to think about this today in terms of just looking at Jesus. A lot of times I focus on Peter because I relate to Peter in that moment. But I wanted to look at Jesus and ask this question: what did he do in that moment to bring calm to a time of disorder and stress and pressure and fear? You may be feeling one or all of those things right now. I've met with plenty of people this week who are feeling those things exactly. So what did Jesus do? In Matthew chapter 14, where that story happens, it starts in verse 22. In 22 and 23, we find Jesus going up to a mountain to get some alone time with God. And he goes up there and he talks with God, he prays, and he spends that time just him and God. And this is all before any of the drama happens. It's just as the storm is really starting to build. While he's up on the mountain, he sees that the disciples are in trouble. But I think we learn something just from the setting of all this. Jesus is up there while they're on the boat, and he is spending time in prayer. And when he sees that there is this drama, and when he sees that there is a reason for his friends to need him and to be afraid, much like your family, your friends, your children, your co-workers may really need you to be a rock, Jesus was ready to be one because he'd spent that time with God in prayer preemptively. Before any of the drama ever started, Jesus was with God in prayer and had an intimate relationship with the Father. And for you and for me, one of the best things we can do is to start before the drama starts, building our relationship with God, guarding carefully times to be in prayer, to be quiet, to be calm with God before the storm. And Jesus sets an awesome example of that, not just in that moment, but all through the Gospels. When you read about his life, this was something he did all the time. And I always think about it this way: if Jesus needed to guard that time carefully in order for him to be what he needed to be, then this weak guy right here definitely needs time with God before the drama of any day ever even starts. So that's one thing we see in Jesus. The second thing that I noticed about it was when he saw that his disciples were having trouble, and when he saw the storm develop, he didn't just stay on the mountain and pray. He went to go be with his disciples. He was present, and he still is. And one of the things that we need to remember is, one, Jesus is still present with us today in all the things that we will face. But as you also are trying to minister to your family, to give grace and share grace and peace with your spouse, with your kids, with your co-workers, this is one of the ways to do it. Be present and remember that he is too. And you are more equipped equipped to be present for your family during these stressful times when you have taken the time to do that first thing, to have spent time with God. It equips you to be present with your family and with those who are going to need you in troubled times. The third is this, and this one is one that we really do need to practice, but not in a way that's just kind of trite or, just sharing little quips or cliches, but we need to speak peace. When Jesus goes down to approach the disciples and to calm them in this storm, the first thing he says is that he is going to be present. He speaks to them and says that, hey, do not fear. It's me. Don't worry about it. I am here. And don't be afraid. You hear that phrase a lot for good reason right now, and we have for the last year and a half, probably more than any other time that I can remember in my adult life. But we hear that because it's something we need to remember. We don't need to be afraid. And it's kind of funny. Sometimes the people you hear say, don't be afraid, are the most fearful people. They're afraid of the people who they think are afraid, and they don't realize they're afraid of afraid people. We kind of get stuck in that vicious cycle. But really, that's who we need to be. And we do need to find ways not to feed the frenzy, not to feed the fear, but to speak peace and to speak calm to our family and to our friends, our brothers and sisters in Christ, and our neighbors. Be that eye, that calm in the eye of a storm for the people around you. I've got people in my life that are those. Tanya is one of those, my wife, and I've got friends who are that way. And when things are going rough, even if we don't have to talk about deep things, there are people who will speak peace into my life, and I'm very grateful for them. And that was what Jesus did too. That's one of the ways he taught us to be. Not just peacemakers in the sense of ending arguments, but peacemakers in the sense of ending fear. It's a good thing to be. Jesus practiced it all the time. The last thing that I want to say about this is when Jesus goes down to Peter, and Peter does the whole, hey, if it's really you, let me walk out there. And Peter does, and he looks at the waves, and he looks at the wind, and he gets scared, just as we often do, and he sinks. Jesus reached out. He reached out, and he lended a hand, and he pulled him up. Before he corrected him, before he spoke some truths that he and the other disciples needed to hear, he simply reached out and gave them a helping hand. We need to remember that. That's what we need to be. And finally, when he got back in the boat, all the disciples look at Jesus. They say, who is this guy? And they worship. Yeah, I'm going to do the plug. One of the ways that we find peace, and one of the ways that we share peace, is to worship. And not just to worship singing in the car, going down the road, or in the shower, or whatever, but worshiping together. They worshiped together because they were thankful for what had just happened. They were thankful for his presence. They were thankful for his peace. They were thankful for his help. And they were thankful that he was Lord of heaven and earth and of the winds and the storm. Worship brings a calm and a peace to all of us. And it's something we need to guard carefully and not give up. It's easy when we're stressed to give up worship and forget that that's actually where we will often find our greatest calm and our greatest peace of mind, in the presence of the Lord of heaven and earth, Jesus Christ. So I am going to invite you to worship this Sunday at 10 o'clock at the Early Church of Christ. I really hope that I can see you there, and we'll speak peace to one another as we worship God together. God bless you, and have a great day.